So in the last video we're looking at comparing um, virtual machines to containers. Today we're going to take a look at Azure container instances. So let's see what it is. So Azure container instances offer the fastest and simplest way to run a container in Azure and without having to manage any virtual machine or adopt any additional services. So Azure container instances are a platform as a service or a PaaS offering. So if you think about it, you have infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So software as a service is the least amount of management you need or you need to do, right? But infrastructure as a service, you're managing a lot of different things. So platform is somewhere in the middle. So Azure Container Instances allows one to upload their containers and then the service will run the containers for you. So that is really important, right? So in terms of the working or how it works, you would basically upload a container or upload your Azure container to an instance, and then the instance or the Azure instance runs the container for you, right? And let's look at the last, or take a look at the last section on this page, which is use containers in your solutions. So containers are often used to create solutions by using a microservice architecture. This architecture is where you break solutions into smaller independent pieces. So like you're dividing a problem into small sub-problems and then trying to solve those sub-problems. So and then you would have solutions, small individual solutions. So for example, you might split a website into a container hosting your front end, another hosting your back end, and a third for storage like a database, right? This split allows you to separate portions of your app into logical sections that can be maintained, scaled, or updated independently. So that's really important. So not in terms of the logistical standpoint, but also in terms of maintenance and updates and scalability. So imagine that your website, the backend, has reached capacity, but the front end and storage aren't being stressed or aren't being used to its potential, or being anywhere near its capacity or in terms of its capability. So with containers, you could scale the back end separately to improve performance. right? So it doesn't really mean that you have to scale all the components. It could only just be the one where you feel or you see that it's reaching its capacity, or it's reaching its limit in terms of performance and capability, right? So that's when you would think about scaling that section, or that particular component, or that instance, if you will. So and leaving the other components as is. So with containers, you could scale the backend separately to improve performance. And if something necessitated such a change, or if something required such a change, you could potentially also choose to change the storage service or modify the front end without impacting any of the other components, right? So basically what I'm trying to say is that you could potentially scale any of the components without affecting the other components, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that you could, if you want to scale something, you have to scale all the components together. You could you could just do one or two. You do not have to do all the three, or all the components which pertain to that solution. So I think we have got a brief or some understanding of what are Azure containers and how Azure containers compare with virtual machines, and what are Azure container instances, and how one could use Azure containers in their solutions. So in the next video, we're going to look at describing Azure functions. So until then, see you next time.